All right. Hi, I'm CJ. I'm the writing teacher. And writing is going to be more like not writing an essay, but really it's just taking a look at core grammar concepts. Okay. So the way we do it is most students, they don't know grammar yet. Okay. They know how to write, but they write what sounds correct. They don't know how to use the comma properly, when to use a semicolon. When do I use a phrase in the middle of the sentence? How do I punctuate it? They just do it. It sounds correct. It must be the correct answer. But SAT writing is really different in that sense because it's taking a look at the different grammar concepts. How do I use the comma? When do I use the comma? Things like that. So the way this class is set up is depending on whether you're in the concept class or whether you're in the high level class, really depends on how long we spend going over the different grammar rules. The concept class around for the first week and a week and a half, instead of solving real tests, instead of just going through brute practice and solving 100 questions a day, we just make it a bit more efficient, go over a concept, go over maybe 20, 30 questions related to that concept, and then move on to the next concept where everything is going to build up all together. For the higher level class, there's a safe assumption that you guys already know the grammar because you guys scored higher on the level test. So the grammar concepts are done within a day or two. And after that, it really is brute practice, solving 60, 70 questions a day, reviewing everything, solving a mock test every other day, reviewing all of that. Okay. So if we take a look at what different concepts that show up, there's like punctuation, verbs, independent clauses, dependent clauses, taking a look at transitions. Overall, there's around 12 to 13 overall chapters that are related to grammar, and we're going to cover everything by dividing it up into subsections. If we take a look at homework, depending on whether we're doing the concepts or whether we're doing after the concepts are done, there's always going to be a problem set. Okay, and the problem set for the grammar is actually drawn from the paper test itself. And the reason we draw it from the paper test, even though we no longer use the paper test, is because that's going to be the exact same difficulty you see on the digital SAT. It's the same test maker. They're going to test the same thing, test it in the same manner, have it in the same difficulty. So that's why we use the paper test in order to get the most efficient practice. So, oops. If we take a look at the class format, usually there's going to be two paper tests that are assigned as homework. And if you're in the higher level class, there's also going to be a mock test. So the primary focus of the class is to review. One thing I don't really like doing, having kids sit in class solving a 20 question problem set, because honestly, I feel like that's kind of a waste of time, right? You guys are here to learn. How do we learn? Review what we get wrong, make sure you don't get it wrong, identify the question type, identify the pattern, identify the strategy. That's what we're doing with the review. And the review is honestly the most important part of the class because that's how people are going to improve. Okay. So if we take a look at how we review it, this is a sample of a correction note I did with my students. They always do complain my handwriting is not the best. But then what I found is like the students who do complain my handwriting is bad generally do have handwriting that's worse than mine. So when I look at their correction notes, I can't read what they're writing, they can't read what I'm writing, but we find a middle ground and we make everything work. They always improve. So if we take a look at how we review it, instead of just saying one answer choice is correct, this is why it's correct, it's more important to know why the incorrect answer is incorrect, right? Because we don't want to make the same error because the SAT asks you the same type of question every month, every test. Okay, so this is how I do it. Ideally, this is how students do it, much neater than mine. And it is the same, even though the question is different. This is what they got from what I did, what I say in class, and all that. So that's pretty much it for the SAT writing. And there are two more classes that are taught as part of the SAT road path. The teacher couldn't make it today because she had a class that's assigned during this time frame. So she asked me to just go over it real briefly. So for people who have younger siblings, or maybe you're in seventh or eighth grade and you want to get a head start on the SAT, what we do, we have them take what we call a core literature class. There's no point being an eighth grader and solving SAT problems because you're not going to understand the vocabulary, like our teacher Ben said. You're not going to understand the analysis techniques. You want to kind of build up a stronger foundation and then use that when you're in 10th grade, 11th grade to solve the SAT. So when we take a look at it, the first class that we do set up is a junior core class, and this is primarily aimed for 7th and 8th graders. We see 7th and 8th graders because sometimes students, they go abroad a bit later, or maybe they attended a Korean school and they're moving to an international school a bit later. So if we take a look at it, the focus of the class is primarily learning how to read, right? People can read the same text, but they can have completely different interpretations, understand it completely different. So not only do we enhance the reading ability, the key thing, and this is going to be relevant to the SAT as well, we try to develop critical reading skills. We read a sentence. What does this sentence mean? Why did the author include this sentence? So that's the primary focus, not only for junior core, but also for the core class as well. Every week, the way these classes are set up, there's going to be an overarching theme. If you look at the syllabus, the teacher did, which is going to be on the website or in the packet that the hot one handed out, there's going to be a general theme for every week. And according to that theme, there's going to be assigned short stories, assigned novellas, like short novels, or even news articles that have to do with that overarching theme. And for every theme, there's going to be a central question. And then there's going to be sub-questions that really help together, all come together and build up, how should I say it? Build up an overarching idea where there's going to be an essay that delves into looking at literary techniques, looking at how to integrate evidence, finding quotations that back on my argument. So if we take a look at how the class is set up, junior core, it's a bit shorter than core because the students are younger. There's always going to be a review of the required readings. There's going to be a vocabulary quiz, literary analysis. This is the prime focus of the class. The class gets together and they discuss. They talk with the teacher. They have an in-class discussion about what is it that we read? What does this mean? What is the symbol that we found? And then there's going to be an essay writing section. The main difference between core and junior core, it's going to be a timed writing session for a given prompt, whereas junior core, because the students are younger, it's more of a guided writing practice where the teacher kind of nudges the students to write in a certain direction. And if we take a look at the skills that are gained, the key thing, again, is going to be literary analysis, reading and understanding. That is the key thing that you want to develop, not only for the SAT, but for high school, for college, for postgraduate work as well. And the key thing, how do we do this literary analysis? Through identifying themes, symbolism, irony, and many other different techniques. And if I briefly go over core, pretty much the same thing. There's going to be an overarching theme, a central question, subtopics. So what's the main difference between junior core and core? Core, it's aimed for 8th and 9th graders. Okay, so this is like the final step that students take before they really study the SAT. And now we're going to include classical literature, William Shakespeare, Jane Eyre, a lot of those older classics that do tend to show up on the SAT as well. Okay, what else is different? We're going to connect historical events, modern topics, so that students can learn how to make cross-text connections, which is a type of question on the SAT, so everything is beneficial. And there's going to be an exploration of literature and history, how everything comes together. And the last thing, class structure, very similar to junior core, except that the class is longer. There's going to be more it goes more in depth compared to the junior core. And the big thing about the core literature is that the student is going to have access and learn about different writing styles. Junior core, they only learned about literary analysis, but in the core, we're going to expand that. There's going to be a comparative essay where we're going to compare two different novels, maybe compare characters between different novels. There's going to be argumentative writing. This is probably the most common essay format that's going to show up later in high school, where you're going to develop a thesis and make up claims to back it all up. So that was the junior core and core literature in a nutshell. The syllabus goes into much more detail. So if you can find it on the website, it really does explain both in Korean and English how the class is going to be set up. And I think that's everything for today's seminar. Thank you for taking your time to come here. Thank you for making the time to join online. And I think that'll be it for today. Thank you.